Hello and welcome to the second part of our discussion of integrated marketing communications and the final video of the summer 2018 semester for Marketing 301. So, as I mentioned in the first video, we will talk about direct marketing. We will talk about personal selling, and then we will finish up with sales promotion. And so what we will do is we'll define what's meant by each one of those three uh, components, and then we will talk a little bit about each one of them and some of their attributes. So let's jump right into it, and let's look at direct marketing. And this is as I mentioned in the previous discussion, this is a component that some people don't view as a standalone component. When I learned my principles of marketing way back in the spring of 1977, direct marketing was not considered to be a standalone component. That's important for a variety of reasons, one of which is that the definition of direct marketing um, continues to evolve, and there are a number of different definitions of direct marketing. So, a definition of direct marketing is that it refers to activities by which sellers direct efforts to a target audience using one or more media to solicit a response by phone, mail, the internet, or a personal visit by a prospective customer. So again, activities by which sellers direct efforts to a target audience using one or more media to solicit a response by phone, mail, the internet, or a personal visit by a prospective customer. And one of the things that is a distinguishing feature of direct marketing as we approach the decade of the 2020 decade is the importance of databases, because what databases allow for the direct marketer and marketers to do is to focus on specific target audiences and focus on actually specific targets. And so if you think about, one of the best examples of that might be when you go online and let's say you look at something on Amazon. That may follow you around. When you go to another website, what you were looking at Amazon might pop up on that other website. And the reason for that is obviously that's technology, but and the cookies and doing the tracking and tracing and things like that. But what that is doing is allowing the organization to focus on a specific individual customer or a particular target audience. So, for example, one of the things that follows me around to various websites is, I know this is going to stun some of you, is my wonderful logistics book, because periodically I go to Amazon and I see how it's selling on Amazon, and then I also look to see what wonderful reviews people have put up on it. Not as many reviews on the 12th edition as on the 11th edition, but hey, it is what it is. But inevitably, I will see the stuff for contemporary logistics or a substitute for contemporary logistics pop up. So again, that gets to the directing efforts to a target audience aspect of direct marketing, and the importance of databases and information management in contemporary direct marketing. Um, and as I mentioned as well, what direct marketing is doing is attempting to narrow the target to a specific segment or an individual customer. So as opposed to maybe something like advertising, which has a broader appeal, the focus of direct marketing tends to be a more specialized in a narrower feel. Uh, the book gives various examples of direct marketing to include direct mail, right? You say, God, direct mail is junk mail. Junk mail is a lot different than junk mail used to be, right? Junk mail is actually, yeah, it's junk mail or it's direct mail, but a lot of it is targeted. And so, if you live in a specific zip code, for example, you may get a whole series of different things via direct mail than somebody who lives in another zip code. And so that again is the kind of the focusing on on the target audience. I know that, for example, one of the places that my wife worked, one of her managers bought a mailing address of all the or bought a mailing list, excuse me, of all the mailing addresses in a particular zip code in one of the west side suburbs of Cleveland, and he sent a direct mail a direct mail brochure to every address that he had bought as part of that as part of that particular campaign. And so again, somebody who was outside that particular zip code did not get that particular brochure. Um, so the book talks about direct mail. The book also talks about catalog marketing. That's a whole interesting thing as well. And one of the things that marketers have learned about catalog marketing is catalog marketing. It's kind of like, oh God, we're wasting paper, and it's not really that useful in today's technology-driven era. But what a number of organizations have found is that the catalogs, the tangible physical catalogs, oftentimes drive online sales. So there's like a symbiotic benefit there. And then the book also talks about the email mobile marketing, and the key thing there is the ability of the email mobile marketing to build and maintain customer relationships, and that's something that we're going to talk about when we talk about personal selling, which is a nice segue to talk about personal selling. And so personal selling can be defined as personal presentation by a firm's sales force for the purpose of making sales and building customer relationships. So there's those pesky customer relationships again, right? And that's a very different definition. Okay, again, personal presentation by a firm's sales force for the purpose of making sales and building customer relationships. It's a very different definition than when I took my Principles of Marketing course in the spring of 1977. And the largest difference, the major difference, is the idea about building relationships. So yeah, we want people to purchase our products, or we want organizations to purchase our products, but we want them to come back, right? We want to build relationships because the studies have shown that, when you build relationships with customers, you tend to have more satisfied customers. Satisfied customers tend to be more loyal customers. Loyal customers tend to buy more. Loyal customers tend to be more profitable. So there's a lot of, beneficial kinds of things. What I want to talk about with respect to the personal selling is the personal selling process, and I'm going to talk about a personal selling process that's a little different than the one that's talked about in the book. And so the personal selling process that I'm going to, the stages of the personal selling process that I'm going to talk about, you're going to start with what is known as prospecting. And prospecting is where the organization identifies qualified potential customers, right? And the key is identifying qualified potential customers, right? Qualified meaning people who are potential good customers. They might not buy, but you're just not, as I like to say, you're just not throwing Jello against a wall and hoping something sticks. And let me give you an example. So I have a friend, one of my best friends from that I've known this guy since I was in high school, and he used to sell beepers, right? Back when beepers were popular, right? Mobile communication. And he would go into work, and his boss would give him the yellow pages and say, "Look, Charlie, my friend's name is Charlie, said, Charlie, start at A right? So he'd go to the Yellow Pages and start at A, and he would just start calling companies and say, "Hi, my name is Charlie Cazaz. I'm from Quick Call Communications, and are you interested in buying a beeper?" Right? That's literally what he would. That's literally what he would do. That isn't qualified, right? Because you have no idea, right? Charlie had no idea whether any of these people, right, or any of these companies that he was calling had any need for beepers, right? And so that the qualified is the important thing, because he spent a lot of time. My friend Charlie spent a ton of time making phone calls and getting absolutely no return, because he's calling companies that just they had no need for, right? So the first stage is the prospecting to identify qualified potential customers. Second is once you've got this prospective pool of customers, there's what is known as the pre-approach, which is where you learn about the prospective customer, right? And so you say, well, what can I learn about the prospective customer? So if like you're a furniture sale, if you're a salesperson of industrial furniture, let's say, and you're looking to sell chairs and desks to John Carroll University, one of the things that you might want to know about John Carroll University is, what kind of university is it, right? Maybe if you can you find out maybe the last time that they bought desks and chairs, and maybe, who they vended from, and things of that nature. And so the pre-approach is where you gather information and learn about prospective customer. That is followed, assuming that you're doing things okay. That's followed by the approach, which is the initial meeting between the salesperson and the prospective customer. Right. Key thing there. You probably heard it when you were growing up from one or both of your parents, and perhaps from some of your grandparents. You don't get a second chance at a first impression. Okay? You don't get a second chance at a first impression. So you might have done a wonderful job of prospecting. You might have done a great job with the pre-approach, but that initial meeting between the salesperson and the customer, right? If that doesn't go well, you're not really, as the salesperson, you're not going to be able to progress through the process, which means that you're not going to be able to make the presentation, right? And the presentation is where the salesperson indicates how the salesperson's organization can solve the customer's issues. And notice that I talked about issues and not about products, right? And so what you got is, and it's a different way of thinking about it. And I talk about this with my wife, who's an audiologist. And one of the things that she has to do is she has to convince people that sometimes that their hearing's not so wonderful and they need hearing aids. And so what I've told her is, or what I've suggested to her is, yes, you're an audiologist. Yes, you're trying to get them to buy hearing aids. But what you're really doing is you're trying to improve the quality of their life. And so if you look at it from that perspective, right, instead of saying, oh, you got to buy this pair of hearing aids, right, you got to buy this pair of hearing aids. But if you look and you say, okay, the problem is you're not hearing well and that's affecting your life. What these hearing aids can do is improve the quality of your life because you will hear things better, right? That's the kind of thing that could occur, should occur in the presentation. The book, there's a lot of different ways, and the book talks about different types of presentation. There's the canned presentation, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a salesperson who's, in many cases, reading from a script, right? It's rote, R-O-T-E, not like God Murphy, you don't know how to conjugate verbs and stuff like that, right? It's rote, it's down there, and it's like, my name is Paul Murphy. I'm a salesperson. I'm here to help you solve your problems, right? We have lots of products. Oh my God, I wouldn't buy anything from that guy, right? So there are different types of presentation that salespeople can do. Hopefully, right? Hopefully, moving us down the road to getting a sale and allowing us to now have a customer where we can build and maintain relationships. So, assuming that the presentation has gone okay, what can happen is there's salespeople who are really good at making presentations, but they kind of come up short, right, in terms of what's known as handling objections. right? And this is where customers will say something or bring up concerns that they have about about the particular product. So it might be as like, oh man, oftentimes people say, oh, that's really expensive. Okay, so if you're a salesperson and somebody says, well, that's really expensive, there are different ways that as a salesperson that you could handle that. One thing is you could say, yeah, it is really expensive, but you're making this investment for a long time. Or yeah, it's expensive, but we have payment plans. Right? Yes, it's expensive, but you get what you pay for. So there's a lot of different ways. I mean, there's not a right way, there's not a wrong way to handle objections. The thing that's wrong is when there are objections and the salesperson just goes, "Yeah, you're right. Those are really good objections. I got nothing for you." Because likely what isn't going to happen then is the person isn't going to buy because you haven't assuaged the prospective customer's concern. So so assuming that we've handled the objections, then it comes to closing the sale, right? That's where you get the firm commitment, right? The sign on the dotted line. And there's a number of different closing techniques that salespeople can use to encourage people to sign on the dotted line. And some of them are real interesting. One of them that I talk about when I do the face-to-face, or when I did the face-to-face, was the so-called puppy dog technique, right? Puppy dog close technique. And you say, what the heck is a puppy dog close technique? So if you've ever gone to a pet store or particularly a pet store and sometimes a shelter, some people might be going, I don't really know about the dog, I don't really know. And the salesperson will go, or the person at the, what? Take the dog home for a day or two, right? Because inevitably what happens, not all the time, but in many occasions, what happens is the people take the dog home, they don't bring the dog back, right? So it's called the puppy dog. You don't have to be dealing with animals, right? Basically what you do is you give the person a trial of a product. More times than not, the person isn't going to return the product. Point being, there's a lot of different ways to close the sale. Now, when I learned my principles of marketing, that was it. We're done. We don't have to go any further with the personal selling process. Not in today's world, because there's the follow-up. Right? And this is where the salesperson contacts the buyer after the sale. The key again is this is the stuff that potentially helps you build and maintain relationships. So for example, one of the things that my wife does, she sends every one of her patients, right? She sends them a birthday card and an anniversary card if they're married, okay? She's not saying in there, hey, buy a hearing aid from me. But what she's doing is, right, she's going back to them. And it's a nice thing. And you got to think about it, right? A number of her patients are elderly. And I'm defining elderly as above 85. And so sometimes, the card that they get from my wife is the only card that they might get because, maybe their spouse is dead and their kids are, nasty and have forgotten about them or whatever. But the idea with the follow-up is that you contact and you maintain communication with the buyer after the sale. All right. So we've talked about personal selling, and the final thing that we're going to talk about is sales promotion. And when I took my principles of marketing course way back in the day, right, sales promotion was basically, if it wasn't advertising and it wasn't personal selling and it wasn't public relations, well, then it was sales promotion. Thankfully, we've evolved, and there's now a more tangible definition of sales promotion than when I took my principles of marketing course, over 40 years ago. And a definition is short-term incentives designed to encourage the sale of a product. Okay, and as I mentioned in the previous discussion, right, sales promotion is a very short-term orientation. Sales promotion says buy and buy now. Right, and so there's a lot of different kinds of sales promotion activities that are out there. We'll look at a couple of them, and we'll focus on consumer sales promotion, right, as opposed to consumers goods consumer products as opposed to business products. And so one type of sales promotion is product sampling, right, which refers to the free distribution of a product to facilitate future purchase. Right, and you know, you might see this sometimes with new cereals. Sometimes when like General Mills comes out with General Mills comes out with new cereals, they will, they put out these little boxes, right? These trial-sized boxes of cereal, and you might get them in the mail, or somebody might come in your neighborhood and drop them off in your mailbox or at your front door. And the idea is okay, so we got this new cereal. You don't really know a whole lot about it, but one of the best ways maybe to let you know about it is give you the product and then let you try the product out. And there's a lot of different characteristics of product sampling. It can get really expensive in part because you've got to figure out, okay, how much of the product are we going to allow the prospective customer to have, and then you have to distribute the product to the customer. And right, you also, from a marketing perspective, you have to give the customer enough of the product so that they can get a sense for what the product can do, but you don't want to give them so much product that they don't buy the product because they have so much of the sample that they really don't need to buy the product, right? So a lot of stuff going on with product sampling. Right. A second type of sales promotion involves coupons, and this is an area that has changed dramatically. Right, dramatically. And you're probably sitting there saying, "Oh, Murphy, you're probably going to start talking to us about like paper coupons." And in fact, oh, look at what I have sitting on my desk here. Ooh, there's a coupon for $1 off something. What is it, $1 off, Paul? Oh, Bounty. Oh, goody, goody, goody. And I got my snack bars. Yay for me. Okay, so one thing is that who does this anymore, right? Who has time to clip coupons? Well, I do. I mean, hell, I don't have my full-time job at John Carroll anymore, so I got plenty of time to clip coupons. But most of you are millennials. You're probably, here you go. Here's your smartphone. You got your coupons on your smartphone. Right, and so it's really interesting because the redemption rates for mobile coupons much higher than for paper coupons. And right, the thing with the mobile coupons is that they can be tailored to individuals much better than can the paper coupons, right? Because the paper coupons are oftentimes coming in the Sunday newspaper, right? And it's like, who's reading that? There's a whole, but look, this. Right, maybe if you got the Jimmy John app, and I know one of you in a reply to one of the discussion boards talked about the McDonald's app. So you might have a McDonald's. So if you got the McDonald's app, you might be getting coupons for McDonald's for different things, and you might be getting it every day. So there's a lot of stuff going on with couponing, and we could talk for a long time, but I'm at over 23 minutes, and so that's the end of this discussion. And I hope you've learned something through the various videos, and good luck going forward. See you. Bye.